And now from Washington, the Inside Scoop. All the news the government does not want you to hear. Now, here's your host on the Inside Scoop, Mark Levine.
Scoop. What would happen if you came home one night, it's late at night, you're home alone, and you smell something? Seems kind of a strange smell. You're not quite sure what it is, but then you hear a hissing noise. Maybe it's the gas line. Immediately you call your gas company. You don't know what to do. And, well, they put you on hold. You hear their wonderful music as you frantically go around the house. The stoves are off. Seems to be okay. Your gas light seems to be okay. But you still hear the hissing noise. Meanwhile, you will get a representative. Just keep holding on the line. You keep holding. 2, 3, 4 minutes pass. Will your house blow up? You don't know. You're still on the line. Suddenly you get in, and it's voicemail. You've been there. If you suspect a gas leak, press 1. Okay, press 1. More music. Finally, you get a representative. He speaks with an accent that seems Indian. Maybe you're talking to someone from Bangalore. He says something. He calls himself Jack, but you don't really understand what he says. You're frantic. I think I have a gas leak in my house. What do I do? Where do I go? He doesn't understand you. You're from Washington, D.C. You have a southern accent. He seems to speak English, but he has an Indian accent. Communication problems. You're frantic. It's hard to be calm when your home could blow up in any moment. Suddenly 3 minutes have passed, and the guy on the other line, he has to get off the phone. His manager has said no more than 3 minutes. Dial tone. Now you're really scared. You call back. You're on. Something like this. Only possible, my friends, it is probable if the people who are in charge don't know what they're doing. Washington Gas and Light Company used to win awards for its service, used to win awards for its employees, and now they want to take these highly trained employees and their highly trained supervisors and ship them outside the country where people don't know where you live. Imagine that situation. You're trying to find out where the main gas line is, and you don't remember the street, but you think it was across from Chinatown. You live in Washington, D.C., you say that, but the representative is closer to China than they are to Chinatown, and they don't know where that is. Fighting this situation, I have 3 people from a union that's part of the AFL-CIO. It's the Office and Professional Employees Union. They represent employees in metropolitan Washington, D.C. and metropolitan Baltimore. But the situation, as you'll learn, is much greater than just the local area. I want to introduce to my immediate right, Sarah Stow, the recording secretary for that union, Dan Dyer, the president of the local of that union, and Ken Thomas, the project organizer and second vice president of that union. All of you, welcome to the Inside Scoop.
Thank you for having us.
Let me start with the question of where the gas lines lay. I understand that one of the things they want to take out is the mapping situation. Tell me about that.
Well, the maps are where our gas are located. If we outsource that part of the job to another company, some of the main locations are not properly located on our maps. These people don't know it, and that will be a major problem. Is
there a problem if someone is in, let's say, Bangalore, India? Would they need to know where 7th Street Southwest is or something like that in Washington, D.C.? Does that matter, Sarah?
Of course it does.
Why?
This is your safety. This is the lives of your family, your community. They have to know where it is to cut the gas off.
Now, one of the things that they're talking about in terms of not even an emergency situation, but even your everyday, I mean, obviously this is pretty dramatic, but let's say you're just giving your billing information to someone in Pakistan or the Philippines or India. Dan, is that a problem?
That's very much a problem. We have two different concerns, well, many different concerns, but the 2 major ones are the people that are taking your information are taking account numbers, credit card numbers. These are things that are going overseas, and they have had bad situations where people have given those out, sold identities coming back through gangs in India,
So
the Philippines. Identity theft is a big issue.
What about the problem of just knowing where our gas lines are? Is that a homeland security risk?
Yes, it is a homeland security risk. And also a simple example of this would be if someone called in and they lived on Maple Street in the D.C. metropolitan area. There's a Maple Street in Arlington, there's one in Silver Spring, there's one in Alexandria. We need to know where Maple Street actually is.
I'll tell you something, Washington, D.C., people who just move are confused between 1st Street Northwest and 1st Street Northeast.
Exactly.
1st Street Southeast, I could just imagine someone in India saying 1st Street, and that doesn't help anybody.
Correct.
Exactly.
So now, how many jobs are we talking about, Sarah?
Between 160 and 180.
And how much money is that in terms of the local economy?
Roughly about $8 to $10 million.
$8 to $10 million of people, that money's just out of the economy. That's before the multiplier effect of people spending, things like that. Are these trained people?
These people are very, very highly trained, and they're very, very highly supervised. The explosion you just saw, the danger that we see doesn't exist because of the care that Washington Gas gives to hiring its people. There's a very stable workforce. There's very little turnover. These people have been doing this for a long time. And they have a value to the gas company and to the community because of that.
Now why are they doing this? The president, James DeGraffenreich, I understand, makes $4 million a year. He's the chairman of the American Gas Association, so I assume he wants to do this throughout the nation. Why did he say he's doing this?
Basically to cut costs. They're trying to save money. I understand they want to save approximately $28 million.
Okay, what are the costs they're going to save? Taxes, things like that?
Well, what they're not going to be paying is the salaries, and the salaries and the benefits are a major part of what it costs them to run the gas operation. And it's a local operation, so what we're doing is we're having a local utility supported by its community and paying back into the community, hiring from the community. That's all gone.
But also, it's offshore. I understand they're looking at a Bermuda company, Accenture, and one reason is they wouldn't have to pay U.S. taxes. Is that right, sir?
Exactly. Nor do they adhere to U.S. laws or judgments.
So even the stockholders of the corporation, the people who they're supposed to be making the money for, I understand under Bermuda law, they can't even sue the corporation. So
That's
basically, the corporation can just grab all the cash and run, and there's no judgment, there's nothing to do about this. So the stockholders, it hurts them, it hurts the employees, it hurts you at home if you have a gas leak. But I assume that the management gets more money? Is that how it works?
True.
That's true.
That's true.
Okay. Now, one of my questions is this something that's happening nationwide? Is this just an issue for Washington and Baltimore, or has this happened before in other communities?
No, this has also happened in Detroit. It's happened in Southern California. It's happened in New York as well as Philadelphia. This is a trend in the industry to outsource the call center type of work.
Now, has it worked? Did they succeed? Did they shut down any call centers?
Well, we have teamed together with somebody with the
Utility workers.
And they've had campaigns in these other areas, and they fought off the company's attempts to do this.
So you managed to defeat it
Right.
each and every time. My understanding is that Washington Gas has before tried to outsource, and it didn't succeed. Who can tell me about that?
They actually outsourced their billing 4 or 5 years ago, and they had a small call center outsourced dealing with one piece of its business. Both of those were brought back in-house.
So even the company admitted that that didn't work.
They were they were losing control. The training was not up to par. There were a lot of reasons, but mainly they gave up control of their communication between their employees, the management of the company, and their customers.
Now, one of the reasons they say they do this is so they don't have to pay American taxes?
No, that's Accenture. The company that's taking is outsourcing to. They don't pay income taxes in the United States or Bermuda. They don't pay it on capital gains. They don't pay it on their income.
But they did get tax breaks for 5 or 6 years for hiring people off the welfare roll.
The gas company did.
The gas company did. So they're taking tax dollars from the American people, and they're not putting tax money back in. Now, these people they took off the welfare rolls, how are they doing? Are they doing good?
Great.
It's been 5 or 6 years.
5 or 6
They're
years.
highly trained.
Highly trained.
They're part of their community.
Part of the community. They still work at the gas company. They're doing a great job. Some of them have been promoted to other jobs within the company.
And they'll all be fired.
And they'll all be.
What percentage of these 160 employees are women or minorities?
We have 78% female, 90% minority.
And they'll all be out of a job in the Washington, D.C. area.
Yes.
So we've got safety issues, we've got mapping issues, we've got the jobs that are being lost, and even taxes. Pretty strong stuff. If you want to call in, if you want to comment on this, you're welcome to do so. The toll-free number is 888-488-MARK, 888-488-6275. You can also comment on the blog at radioinsidescoop.com. There's already some comments there, and we want to hear from you. There's so many details to this question. It's not just a local question, as you point out, it's a national question. Let's start taking these one by one. All right, let's start with safety, because I think that, you know, I don't work in the gas industry. I care about my taxes, but the thing I care about most about, let's be honest, is I care about my house blowing up. I don't want that to happen. So at the beginning of the show, I talked about coming home. Was that an exaggeration, Sarah, or could that really happen?
Of course it could happen. These people are so trained and they know what they're doing, and to give it to somebody out of the country, it's just a call center. They don't specialize in gas. They're just to get you off the phone.
When you say just to get you off the phone, what do you mean? Why should they want to get you off the phone?
They are given orders that they should get people in and off the phone in 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
3 minutes.
So if my house is going to blow up, I better get through the communication barrier in 3 minutes, or I'm going to get a dial tone.
Yes.
Now, how do we know this? I mean, maybe that's just oversell.
I was going to ask you if Ken would discuss what happened in PG County when you talk about whether it's
what
possible.
happened in Prince George's County?
Yes, in Prince George's County, I think it was 3 years ago in March, we had a home exploded in PG County. I guess, you know, the gas built up in the home. And as some people don't know, possibly if you even turn a light switch, that will trigger the explosion.
Wow.
They had a lot of leaks in this area of PG County. People were calling over and over and over again. And the gas company did respond. I'll give them credit for that, but it was major leaks going on. So unfortunately, someone lost their home. Fortunately, no one lost their life.
Let me go to the phone lines. Carol from Fairfax County, welcome to the Inside Scoop.
Hello. I was asking about that Accenture that you mentioned. I have heard that they will not, if there's any kind of suing in the United States against the company, that they would not be liable since they're based in Bermuda. Is that true?
That's a great question, Carol. And I think Accenture, they were involved somehow with Enron. Is that right?
Accenture Consulting was Anderson Consulting, which was a part of Arthur Anderson Accounting, and where they were deeply involved with the Enron debacle. When Arthur Anderson Company went under, they moved to Bermuda and titled themselves as Accenture. Their filing with the SEC stated that they believed they could not, people in the United States could not enforce court decisions in Bermuda. They could not be sued under Bermuda law by their stockholders, and they didn't pay tax on capital gains or on income.
So what do we have to make sure that they even serve their customers?
Well, that's exactly our point. Right now,
I mean, they don't serve their stockholders because they don't know them. They don't serve the American people. They don't pay taxes. They don't even really serve their customers because, you know, what is a person in and it's not just Bengal or India, right? Philippines, Pakistan,
Canada.
You know, they don't know the local area. It's like, it's just a call. Oh, well, 3 minutes are up. Your house could explode. What protections are there other than the unions and the American people and the people listening to this broadcast?
Right now we have the protection that the gas company supervises very closely this work, all the work that's done, the inside work, which is the work that we're doing, the outside work, which the Teamsters are doing. They have control, and I don't want to get anybody scared that this is a frightening thing that your house could blow up in a minute. And the reason it wouldn't happen that way is because the gas company is so good at what they do.
Right now,
but once they separate any or all parts of that job and send it overseas or send it even to another state, it's not locally handled, and then it becomes a danger.
Now, when are they planning to do this? I mean, how much time do we have to stop this kind of thing?
The decision, I believe, is going to be made March or April.
March or April of this year?
Of this year.
They already up in 2 months.
They already have the bids back by IBM and Accenture.
And what can the people listening to this broadcast do to stop it? Who would they even call?
We have a website that they can go to and they can sign a petition that we've started. We have a petition campaign against the company.
What's your website?
Our website is www.sosatwgl.com. SOSATWGL.com.
SOSATWGL. What does AT stand for?
At.
Oh, excuse me.
SOS is Save
You
Our
spell it
Service.
out.
Save our service.
Save Our Service
At Washingto
at
Gas Light.
WGL.
But you
Yeah.
spell out the AT.
Right.
SOSATWGL.com. Now, of course, that's your website. We want to give you as much support as possible. But who regulates this company? Is it the states? Is it the District of Columbia, federal government? You got to be able to call the regulator,
Each
right?
state has a public service
Public
commission.
Service Commission.
So you have to call, if you live in Virginia, the Public Service Commission of Virginia. In Maryland, the Public Service Commission of Maryland. And I guess D.C. has its own
Public Service
Service
Commission.
Public Service Commission, and that's what people can call. Carol from Fairfax is still on the line. Oh, looks like she's gone. Sorry, Carol, we were going to get another question from you. One of the things I wanted to address is that throughout all of this, even though they claim to be saving money, I understand they want rate increases. Is that
They
right?
have applied for rate increases in all 3 jurisdictions.
So they claim to be saving money. They're definitely saving taxes. The guy's making $4 million a year, and he wants rate increases. I guess that's so we can increase his salary. I mean, what else is the money going to?
Well, it's a stock-held corporation, the gas company is. So but I guess what isn't spent is going to the stockholders as well.
Except that if he were to steal money from the stockholders, they couldn't sue, at least in Bermuda, at least Accenture. If they were to take money from the stockholders would be out of luck.
When I talk about the stockholders, I'm talking about the stockholders of Washington Gas Light.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So one of the things that you were telling me before the show is about this mapping. If you do reconstruction on your property, if you're building something, you're supposed to check where the utility lines are.
Yes.
And you have these detailed maps of the utility lines.
Correct.
How would outsourcing affect that?
Well, outsourcing would affect it because if a map was drawn, a new map was drawn, and the main wasn't put on the map in the correct place, it would go into the system incorrectly. So if you called Miss Utility and they came out to mark your gas line, they possibly could mark it in the wrong place.
So if I call and the call center's in Pakistan and I say I'm on 3rd Street and they don't understand the difference between 3rd Street Northwest or 3rd Street Northeast, I could actually get it mapped in the wrong place.
Right. Not you couldn't get it mapped in the wrong place. They would come out and mark it in the wrong, the wrong
But if they
address.
mark it in the wrong place, somebody thinks there's a gas line there, and there isn't a gas line there.
Right.
Or even worse, they don't mark it where it really is. Is that
Right.
possible?
Yes.
It's possible.
Another
then when you
scary
dig-
thought is to have another country know where our gas lines are.
Well, that's an interesting thing. Why would that matter?
National security. I mean, we've already had 9/11, and we don't want to give any more ammunition to people who...
Well, this is interesting because one of the call centers, I believe you said, is in Pakistan. Is that right? That Washington Gas Light is thinking about? Is that fair?
No, Accenture has call centers in Bangalore, India.
In Bangalore, India.
Yeah.
Are there some in Pakistan too? I thought...
They're in Ontario, Canada, several places in Canada, and India. That's the ones we know of for sure.
Okay, because obviously Al Qaeda I know is in Pakistan, and for all I know, there's some in India as well. If Al Qaeda were to find out where our gas lines are, I mean, let's be honest, what could they do?
It's not uncommon in foreign countries for gangs to infiltrate these call centers.
In India.
In India, it's happened in Germany.
So if they know where our gas lines are, all they have to do is dig in the middle of the night, drop, and I don't want to give anyone any ideas, but it's very scary because if Americans know where it is, all right, I feel, at least they're Americans, but if someone in India would sell, they don't make much money in India, you sell for, I don't know, $100, $1,000, where our gas lines are, you could have a major explosion.
You wouldn't even
right
have
in
to
the
dig.
nation's capital.
You wouldn't even have to dig.
You just put a bomb in the right place, I suppose, and the effect of the explosion would be 100 times more than the explosion itself.
Now, this is really scary stuff. I know nationally the Democrats have just passed a bill that would make into law the 9/11 Commission recommendations. And one of those recommendations was protecting our water supply, our gas supply. This would basically harm that, wouldn't it? I mean, the idea?
Potentially.
It's really scary stuff, folks.
This is part of what Washington Gas is giving up control over, and this is why we think it's such a bad idea.
Well, so you've got the jobs, you've got the safety issues, identity theft issues. What I don't understand is, one of the things you mentioned, for example, was that women and minorities are a large percentage of this. But the board of Washington Gas Light, I understand, has a woman on it that has a connection to Black Entertainment Television. Is
That's
that right?
correct. Her name is Miss Deborah Lee.
Deborah Lee.
I believe she's the chairman, CEO of
BET Holdings.
Holdings, yeah.
So now wait, this is interesting to me. Deborah Lee, the chairman of BET Holdings, Black Entertainment Television, is actually going to be part of an effort to fire 160 people, many of them are African American.
Correct.
Now, you know, I don't know that many African Americans know this about this,
right.
but I would think they wouldn't be happy about this. One of the things that of course, they say is, hey, but this saves money, right? This saves lots of money. We get rid of the Americans, and you know, the Indians, they'll work for dirt cheap, right? What about the supervisors? Would they go too? I mean,
We believe they would. Yes. In any instance where the company has restructured, they've laid off supervisors as well as bargaining unit police.
So, because I know
employees.
sometimes I'm on the, I mean, I have billing problems already. I got to tell you, I have credit cards. And it seems like every time I call on my credit card, I get a voice with a very recognizable accent. And, you know, no disrespect to the people of India, but the English I speak isn't exactly like the English they speak. And we already have communication problems. And I had one time where on my own credit card, they had given me a charge they weren't supposed to give me. And I asked to speak to her supervisor. And I got a man that I also had trouble understanding. Is that likely to happen in the gas company situation?
Yes.
If they go offshore, it definitely will happen.
And
another problem that they're having is, Ken had mentioned the gangs infiltrating these call centers. Citibank had a call center in Bangalore, and it was infiltrated by gangs. They ended up arresting 12 people for stealing, I think it was in the order of $1 billion worth of financial information from people, their credit card numbers, their passport numbers. Thousands of people were involved that had their identity stolen.
Okay,
this happened in 2005.
Let me ask you this, devil's advocate. I mean, why couldn't that happen right here in America? What's the difference between America and Bangalore in this regard?
It can happen as long as Washington Gas is in control of the call center. Now, could it happen in South Carolina or in Mississippi or Minnesota? Yes, absolutely it could. When the gas company gives up control of this operation, control of this function, then anything can happen.
Because what kind of protections are in existence now that wouldn't be there if there's outsourcing?
Washington Gas monitors every call that comes into the call center representatives that we have now. Every call is recorded. They go back and listen to it. The supervisors there are listening to every other call that comes in.
Okay, now you say, of course, this was tried in Los Angeles, Detroit, and New York, but it was stopped in all three places.
Correct.
How is it stopped? By doing shows like this? By getting people involved?
By getting the community involved.
Corporate campaigns.
What did they do? What happened in those three cities? Give me some details.
They did pretty much the same thing we're attempting to do here with the petitions, talking to the public service commissions, getting this word out to the public, doing shows like the Mark Levine show.
The Inside Scoop, but that's okay. Mark Levine's Inside Scoop. You can call it the Mark Levine Show if you want.
And this type of thing, and getting community support, because not only are the 160 call center representatives affected by this, but this affects the community and the customers. You may not have gas, but your next door neighbor has.
I happen to have gas, so
Right.
I'm pretty concerned. One of the things that, since it didn't work in Los Angeles, and it didn't work in Detroit, and it didn't work in New York City, Washington Gas, if it succeeds, would be the first company, of course it's Metropolitan Washington and Metropolitan Baltimore, this would be the first company in the nation to succeed, and this guy, the president, James McGrath, he's the chairman of the American Gas Association.
Correct.
So this isn't just a Washington-Baltimore problem. If it happens here, you'd think the chairman, I mean, has he expressed saying we're going to bring this nationally? Is this a national issue?
Well, they have done this in other places. In Canada, to be honest with you, in Canada and British Columbia, they outsourced the call center to Ontario. Accenture is the company that's taking the calls in Ontario, but it's 2,500 miles away from British Columbia.
You know, it's interesting because even that I would think is a problem because, you know, somebody living in Vancouver and someone living in Toronto, they don't know the streets. They don't know. I mean, it's like we talked about, First Street Northwest or First Street Northeast.
Exactly.
But at least they speak the same language.
Right.
Magnify this by people that don't understand. And listen, let's face it, Americans come in all kinds of accents, right? We have all kinds of ways that we speak. We understand each other. We have, you know, New Yorkers that come down the Washington area. We understand them. We have people from Mississippi. We understand them. But I wonder how hard it is to train someone in a foreign country to understand the variety of American accents. Has there been problems like this in the past?
We believe there has. You not only have to train them in the gas industry, the gas business, to make it safe, but you have to train them in, as you're saying, the various dialects of English.
Yeah,
the
of American English.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm in my house. The gas is on. I'm getting concerned. Tell me now what would happen. All right, I call on the line. Am I being put on hold?
You would call the emergency leak line.
Right. I'm flipping through the pages really quick because I'm worried. My house could be blowing up, and I hope I don't turn on the light because now I'm really concerned.
Your cell phone can set it off.
Right.
Oh, now you're really scaring me.
But you would call the gas company, and a customer service rep would take their call, take the information, then they would dispatch a gas company team of professionals to your house to address it.
You know, the other thing I was thinking of, in addition to the accents, is if I'm worried about a gas leak, I'm going to be pretty agitated. And so I may not be speaking as clearly as I am now. I'd be, hey, I got a gas leak! You know, and I'm going to need someone who not only can understand me, but can calm me down. Maybe tell me to leave the house, whatever it is. And you know, if there's a gas main outside, know where I shouldn't go. So right now they're winning awards.
Yes,
for doing this.
Yes, absolutely.
But they may not in the future. Let's go to the phones real quick. Mary from Centerville, welcome to the Inside Scoop.
Thank you. Yes, I have a question, and it is about the awards. I'd like to know what awards the company has received and what type of community service the employees have been involved in so that the company would receive these awards.
Great question.
The gas company does the leukemia walk. They won the award for collecting the most money of any corporate. They had a corporate campaign. They collected more money than any other corporate group here in the D.C. metropolitan area. They're involved with Christmas in April and various community events that they take.
But they're also getting awards not just for helping the community, but for actually being good at their jobs, right? I mean, for being quick and
quality of service, right?
Quality of service. Now, these awards, is this at a national level? They're getting these awards?
I believe it is. Can be better able to
They're
tell you
getting national
I
awards
believe they were
now?
named in the top 40.
Yeah, they were named in the top 40.
In the top 40 in the nation. You know, when you're at the top, why mess with the system? I mean, it can only go down. It's a real problem. Folks, if you are incensed about this as I am, I hope you will call your public utility commissions in Virginia, in Maryland, in Washington, D.C., and across the nation, folks, because this could indeed be happening to you. Contact your local union representatives. Go to the websites. Help them out. This has not succeeded, but it could succeed in your community, and you want to be protected if it happens. 888-488-MARK. We'll be right back after this.
A nation whose policies are grounded in beliefs that are centered on a lie and embedded in BS, then you won't want to miss the all-new program coming to Channel 10, Escape from Orwellia Nation. Uncle Sam wants you to watch. Every Wednesday at 9 p.m., with replays every Friday at 3. History has demonstrated that violence only begets greater violence, and injustice only begets greater injustice. This is not the tradition of our great nation. This is not how we want the United States to be known around the world. We have another tradition that we think ought to prevail. One that is more just and more powerful. There is a better way. If we truly want peace and security, then we must work hard for justice. In 2004, there were 203 million eligible voters in the United States. Of these, nearly 70% did not vote for George W. Bush. Only 62 million voters, or barely 30% of those eligible, actually voted for the president in 2004. Recent polls show the president's approval ratings slipping into the low 30% range. This comes as a little surprise to many of the 70% of eligible voters who did not vote for him.
From Washington, back to the Inside Scoop with Mark Levine.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. The topic of today's show is outsourcing a case study. We're talking about a specific case happening right here in the local metropolitan Washington, D.C. area. Washingto Gas Light wants to take 160 highly trained employees and ship them overseas. Discussing the question is Sarah Stow, the recording secretary for the Office and Professional Employees Union, which represents metropolitan Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, metropolitan Baltimore workers in office and professions. We've got Dan Dyer, the president of Local 2 of this union, and Ken Thomas, project organizer and second vice president. All of you, welcome back to the Inside Scoop. We also have you folks. Give us a call. Tell me what you think. Maybe you support outsourcing. Tell us why. The toll-free number is 888-488-MARK, 888-488-6275. You can also comment on the blog at radioinsidescoop.com. I know many of you would prefer to write than to call. That's fine, too. Ken, one of the things you were telling me before it went off air is how a woman, say, in Southeast D.C. would go about making a call. Give me an example of how this would affect an ordinary citizen.
I was just saying that if you had a senior citizen who lived, elderly senior citizen, African-American black woman, living in Southeast Washington, and she wants to call in about a billing problem, and she has to now talk to a representative with a thick accent. You know, and have no problems with accents, but I think it's going to be a problem with the call. And then since the call is timed out, she may not get her problem addressed before they actually have to shove her off the line. Then she'd have to call back. And
a lot of people get so upset they don't call back.
Right.
And they just end up losing the money.
Right.
I mean, that certainly happened before. And of course, in an emergency situation. Now, how do we know about this 3-minute time limit, and where does this come from?
We've been doing a lot of reading, mainly on the web, online, and we find that one of the problems that call centers have is this stress level they put their call center reps under. They want every call to average out to 3 minutes, and they can be disciplined if this doesn't happen. So what the net effect is, these people are going to try to get your problem solved as quickly as possible, but if they can't get it solved to your satisfaction, you may have to call back, and you may have to call back 5 or 6 times before you actually get your bill resolved or whatever it is. Now, to be fair, I'm sure this wouldn't happen with emergency calls, at least I would hope it wouldn't. But a regular everyday call on your bill, or to have your gas turned on or turned off, it could very well happen with that, and I think it would.
We do have some comments right here on the blog. Folks, again, you can write on the blog at radioinsidescoop.com or call at 888-488-MARK. We have a blog comment from Robert, and Robert points out that as health insurance companies move your medical record keeping to India, are the congressmen, the senators going to move their record keeping too? I mean, it's also all these records being in all these foreign companies. We talked about the Homeland Security issues. There have been identity theft problems too? That this has happened?
There has been credit card fraud and gangs infiltrating unions.
Not unions. Or, call centers.
Call centers.
Call centers, not unions.
No unions.
So just to be clear, no gangs influencing unions. Let me go back to the blog here, because what's interesting, as Robert points out, is how many manufacturers will cut down on, because this is a broader question than Washingto Gas Light, on producing finished products where the labor is cheaper, and they think they can cut a few jobs, but there's hidden costs. Sometimes they send a product to a competitor. There's not the same record keeping, not the same community watching. We can go back to the blog, we can show. I also have companies, Robert points out, getting themselves in financial binds and operation binds because they're not keeping honest books.
Well, our research has showed that 70% of the companies that outsource are unhappy for one reason or another.
Well, this is very interesting. 70%. Who are they? Are they asking consumers? Are they asking employees?
This was research done by GAO, Government Accounting Office, and they found that it was mainly because of going over their costs.
Over their costs? So they didn't even save money?
No, they weren't saving money, and they had no control.
So they're firing these Americans, 160 in this case, but obviously it's a greater problem across the nation. Tens of millions have lost, multiplied by all the spending in the local economy. Mm-hmm. And they're not even saving any money? They're paying less taxes. Where's the money going?
Good question.
Good question.
I mean, I wonder, are there people in, Bangalore grabbing out of the till? Has this happened where people have just lost money?
Well, what happens is they'll bid a contract to handle a call center. And then there are hidden costs and there are cost overruns.
What kinds of hidden costs are we talking about?
Well, the training costs, for one thing. There's an assumption of turnover rates that don't match reality. So they're going to turn people over more. They're going to have to train more. At a point, the only way they can stop the turnover rate is either to reduce the stress, which they're not likely to do, or raise the wages, which is a hidden cost to the original consumer of the product.
Well, let's talk about turnover. Of course, turnover means someone leaving the job and someone hiring. Is there greater turnover with outsourcing? Are there many more people fired and rehired if the jobs are abroad than if they're right here at home?
Actually, it's the call center, not the location, that's going to turn that over. They find in India where they will make, a call center employee will make 12 rupee a day. It is not a bad wage for India.
What is 12 rupee a day in dollars?
I believe it's about $1.40. I'm not absolutely sure.
$1.40 a day?
Right.
Okay.
In our currency. The stress is so high. I mean, they don't want you to take sick leave. They don't want you to take vacation. All these jobs in India and Asia are nighttime jobs because it's 12 hours. There's 12 hours difference. So if you're going to talk to a consumer that's got a problem here, it's midnight or later over there.
So it's 2 a.m. in the morning. The guy's making $1.40 a day, doesn't speak English very well, and knows that he's under complete pressure to get you off the phone in 3 minutes, or his supervisor's going to can him.
But in some companies, these are highly desirable jobs, and
well,
they can't take off when something happens or they lose their job. So there is going to be a lot of turnover.
So maybe they're under a lot of stress. Maybe they're having but they can't take off, and they're thinking about their private problems rather than. What do we have protecting America today? Because I want to distinguish. Because you can have a guy on the job in America that has something going on in their life. Is it easier to get whether it's sick leave or something in America today than it would be in Bangalore?
I would say yes, because we have a union contract. They get so many days off sick leave, so many days vacation and things like that. They plan it. Of course, they're valuable workers to the company. They have to plan in advance when they want their time off, but you can care for a child. For example, we have a good benefit with our sick leave plan, and if your child is sick and you're a worker, you can take a day off sick leave to care for your child. It's a great union benefit.
One of my favorite bills by President Bill Clinton was the Family and Medical Leave Act, which applies to American workers but wouldn't apply to Indian workers. And that's if someone's really sick or dying, like a mother or a father, you can take off and not lose your job. In essence, does this undercut that protection? I mean, when we give protections to American workers, minimum wage, the Democrats just increased the minimum wage in the House. It's just all an effort, I guess, to undo these benefits to American workers.
Exactly. Very much so. There's a whole spectrum of labor laws that protect workers in this country and locally. I mean, D.C. has some excellent labor laws. Maryland, not Virginia so much, but the other two.
But it's better than India.
But yeah, absolutely. And the federal laws do protect them. There are wage hours, there are minimum wages, you say. Those are the things you're not going to find over there. And the workers in these countries are really being exploited. I mean, it's slave labor in a lot of areas.
You know what's interesting is I hear a lot of complaints in the United States about illegal immigrants coming in. And the fear is that illegal immigrants are going to undercut American wages. And whatever you feel about that controversy, in essence, we're getting the undercutting, and they don't even have to sneak across our borders. It hurts just the same. It's still the same jobs being lost. Now, the American CEOs, they're not losing their jobs.
No.
Their salaries, James DeGraffin writes, someone told me $4 million a year?
Total compensation.
$4 million a year.
And he doesn't even live in the Washington Gas area.
Really? He doesn't?
No.
Where does he live?
If there's a house that blows up, it's not going to be his.
Where does he live?
Baltimore area.
In Baltimore. So he doesn't even live in the local area, so he's safe if there's a problem.
Yes.
Okay, so he gets his compensation up, and 160 workers right here in Washington, well, it's a problem. Folks, if you want to call in, the toll-free number is 888-488-MARK, 888-488-6275. What do you think about outsourcing? Is it ever good, or should we try to stop cases like Washington Gas Light Company? We'll be right back after this.
Nobody wears ties to school.
Tie says you're serious, it'll make a good impression. And remember, you're there to study,
to learn, and to make something of myself. I got it.
Almost half of all UNCF students are the first in their family to go to college.
They have some great architecture classes.
Dad, I'm not really interested in architecture.
Well, keep your options open. And remember, no girls until
my work is done.
And I'd make sure that I got my lunch.
Dad, you're not going. I am.
I know.
Well, listen, we better get going. Don't want to be late the first day, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're the first to go, you're going for a lot of people. The United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Magellan? No. Well, who knows what Magellan did? Sail around the world. Right. Now.
Sometimes, a child who doesn't seem interested is really a child with a speech or hearing problem.
Blackbeard? Who said Blackbeard? And what did Blackbeard do? He was a pirate.
Time and again, it's been shown that a young student's ability to read and learn begins with speech and language and hearing skills.
Jamie, are you with us? Who can tell us?
He wanted to go to India.
Many communication disorders can be detected early and corrected, so learning and literacy skills can develop normally. Make sure your child has the speech, language, and hearing abilities to keep up in class. For more information, visit asha.org, a public service message from the American Speech, Language, Hearing Association and this station.
New route to
Asia.
Good.
From Washington, back to the Inside Scoop with Mark Levine.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. Is outsourcing good for America? Well, it may be good. Let's face it, for the guy who runs the company, he may make multi-million dollars. But is it good for the American people? Well, it's not good for the American workers, and it's not good for the American consumer, and it's not even good for the stockholders, because if they take your money, well, you may not be able to sue. In the case of Washington Gas and Light Company, they want to send it out to Accenture. It's the former Arthur Andersen company. You may remember them. They had some shady dealings related to Enron, and they're based in Bermuda. So if they steal all your money, you're going to have to try to get access under Bermuda law, and I'm told that you can't. My guests are all from the Office and Professional Employees Union. That is a part of the AFL-CIO. I have Sarah Stow to my right, Recording Secretary. To her right, Dan Dyer, President of the local, Ken Thomas, Project Organizer and Second Vice President. Welcome back again to the Inside Scoop. Folks, if you want to call in, toll-free number, 888-488-MARK, 888-488-6275. One of the questions that I want to ask is whether Washington Gas and Light has done studies to find out if this is something. I mean, usually if a company does its own studies, it shows that at least it'll make the company money. Has that happened in this case?
No, we're not certain.
Well, you were telling about Deloitte & Touche study.
Yeah. Well, Deloitte & Touche was a national study. Deloitte Consulting did a study that Sarah was referring to. 70% of companies that have outsourced overseas have problems with the fact that they did it. Deloitte is in the family of Deloitte & Touche, who happen to be the accountants for the Washington Gas Light Company. So
the accountants for the Washington Gas and Light Company agree that at least 70% of the time people are unhappy with the outsourcing.
The Deloitte & Touche accounting firm is in the family with Deloitte Consulting now. Whether they've read each other's studies, I don't know, but it would seem logical that that's the case.
Well, what's interesting is usually when you hire your own people, you can kind of finesse the studies. In this case, even when they hired their own people, they got 70% failure rate. I guess if you don't, it might go higher.
Could be.
I don't know about that. One of the questions I have is they're applying for rate increases. Now, they're arguing that outsourcing lowers the cost for everyone, and yet they're applying for rate increases. How the heck do they justify that?
What's the justification? They're going to say that they have increased labor costs, increased costs of doing business.
Well, no, but increased labor costs, they're arguing that they need to go outsource to get lower.
Well, when they sent the reports that we've read where they apply for the increases to the different commissions, that's one of the factors that was included.
So okay, either They're not telling the truth to the regulators because they're saying that the labor costs are going down when really they're going up. Or, even worse, they're telling the truth and labor costs are going up and it would be cheaper just to keep the Americans at home. So they're lying, either lying to the regulators or they're telling us the truth, which is that outsourcing actually costs money. I don't know which it is, but I'm not sure it matters.
Scares me.
It is a pretty
really
scary thing. One of the things you're telling me is that if it doesn't go to Accenture, it might go to IBM. Is that right?
Yes.
Tell me about that situation there.
Well, they sent out an RFP. This is a response.
What's an RFP? Tell me.
RFP is a
Request for bid.
Request for bid.
Okay.
And that's the way you you go out and look for a person to do something for you.
Gotcha.
And the two companies that they selected are IBM and Accenture. They're also outsourcing other parts of the company's operation. So IBM was one of the ones they selected as well as Accenture.
Well, now IBM has some representatives in Bangalore, I believe.
They do. They have operations in Bangalore as well. They have a contract with Sprint, and Sprint had to sue IBM over compliance with the contract. They sued them for $9 million and just settled that suit recently.
Because IBM wasn't following its contract.
No, IBM, yes. Yes,
that was at least the argument
Yes.
that IBM paid them off.
Right.
Now, the contract had to do with employees, or?
We're not sure. They're outsourcing the IT operation. They're looking to Washington Gas is. They're looking to outsource the human resources application, function, and they're looking to do the call center as well. So
human resources, so that's hiring and firing.
Yes.
So the people in India will
Benefits.
be hiring and firing, and benefits for local people?
Yes.
So someone in Bangalore will decide whether someone in Washington, D.C. or Fairfax, Virginia gets a pay raise or not.
A job or not, yeah. The pay raise will be a result of the
They won't
negotiations
even meet
with
these
the union.
people.
Right.
I mean, one of the things I find when I'm working with anyone in any field is personal relations matter. If I have the cable guy come out to my home, or the gas woman, comes out to my home, some, we all know, are very good, are very nice. They have nice reaction. They don't step in the dirt and traipse it through your home, which is a concern. Mm-hmm. And they do their job quickly and efficiently. And others, let's face it, don't. And I can tell you in the past, I've had people where I had a cable problem recently. I had to go back 3 or 4 times, and then I got a really efficient employee. Well, I called the company and I praised that employee, and frankly, I didn't praise the other 3. But in Bangalore, they don't even meet these people. They can't even find out if someone's brusque with customers, or, in fact, I guess they would prefer people in Bangalore. I don't know. I don't mean to pick just on Bangalore. This could be outside India.
It could be anywhere.
It could be Atlanta, Georgia. It could be Denver, Colorado, or it could be Bangalore.
Well, of course, Atlanta and Denver would be better.
Right.
But one of the concerns there is, again, they don't know where the gas mains are.
Exactly.
I mean, I have tourists in Washington, D.C. that have trouble negotiating where things are there. I would think that a local person, obviously, would be better to do that. I just remember calling 411 recently. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you a story. It's a true story. I called 411, and I asked for the name of this restaurant. And I said it was on the Potomac, and she couldn't find it. And she went on and on and on. I said, I'm sure you can find it. It's, Potomac. She said, oh, the Potomac. I said, the Potomac. Oh, the Potomac. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Exactly.
This was a woman in, I think she was in Colorado. Mm-hmm. I mean, she'd never heard of the Potomac River. Mm-hmm. An American, God bless her, but she did not know the Potomac River. And I think of all the time lost on that call. Right. So now, but this is a nationwide problem, right? I mean, what are unions, what is the AFL-CIO doing, or maybe what's your union doing nationwide to confront this problem?
Well, we've had to work with the utility workers in New York, public service, gas and electric. We're working with the utility workers on this case right here. And the AFL-CIO, by and large, has been very supportive of us. John Sweeney, our international president, Michael Goodwin. It's a real team effort, and anything we need, all we have to do is ask, and it's been given to us.
Well, let's go through the mechanics, because it's important to know how to stop this. We talked about going to your website, www.sosatwgl, sosatwgl. That's a mouthful. I'll put it on my website at radioinsidescoop.com. That's .com too, right?
.com.
www.sosatwgl.com. But let's talk broader. You can call your public utility commissions. What else can you do?
Those numbers are also on the website.
On your website.
Yes.
Terrific. What else can people do? Call their state legislator, member of Congress?
State legislature, the county council in PG County, Montgomery County, in Fairfax, Virginia, Alexandria, wherever there is a county council, they need to call these people.
Okay, now a lot of people don't know their local people. So you say county council, you mean the people who run the county executive.
County executive and the
Fairfax County. There's a county executive.
And they have supervisors, I believe, over here.
Board of Supervisors.
We have what they call, in Montgomery County, it's the county council. These are council members that serve the same function. These people need to know. These people need to be made aware of what the dangers are. Because going forward, the only way we can fight this is if the public realizes what's at stake here and says to the politicians, and they say to the Public Utility Commission, this can't stand.
Now, of course, in Washington, D.C., it'd be the mayor, councilman. Alexandria has a mayor and councilman. So basically, it's your local officials, your local authorities.
And also, I want to point out that you can go to our website and sign a petition online. That will help us, too.
Okay, so we talk about local authorities. What about state and federal? Do they have a role in this?
It can't hurt to go to them, but it's not the same. It's not going to have the same impact.
It's really the locals we need to go to. So
yes.
calling Governor Kane in Virginia isn't as important as calling your local Fairfax Board of Supervisor member.
Right. Now we've contacted the governor in Maryland, the governor in Virginia.
I would think they're pretty sympathetic, aren't they?
We haven't heard back yet, but we've just sent out the letters. But
well, I've had
yes,
the governor of Virginia on this show, Governor Kane, and he's usually pretty good with union concerns.
Yeah.
What can he do, though? Is the answer really it's not his decision? It's the local people's decision?
We believe it's more local decision, and we need to get them involved in this.
What are they saying? What are the local? I mean, this could happen in March or April. What's the Board of Supervisors in Fairfax saying, or the City Council in?
Well, we've just made our big move out there. Your show is one of the kickoffs to our campaign. We're on, so we got some radio spots on Drive Time Radio. We're going to the Post for half-page ads. We're trying to get the public aroused now. The politicians we hope to hear from back from very soon.
We have people like myself out in the communities knocking on doors, getting people to sign the petitions. They're very sympathetic to our cause. Again,
www.sosatwgl.com locally. Let me ask you this. Inside Scoop, nationally syndicated, got lots of people all across the country. What can you give? What does it matter to the people I have listening from Michigan or California?
If it happens here, it could happen anywhere. This is just the start.
Now, he is the president, James Grafenright, the CEO of Washington Gas and Light, is the national president of the American Gas Association.
This year.
Yes.
What is the American Gas Association?
It's a trade association of gas utilities.
So he's, in essence, not just the head locally, he's kind of the head of all the national gas utilities. How many gas utilities are we talking about? 40, 50, 100, 200?
Hundreds.
Yes. Hundreds. So if it's, and it's never succeeded anywhere. They tried LA, New York,
no, it has
Detroit.
succeeded in other places.
They've managed to outsource.
Oh, yeah.
See, if there's not a union involved, there's nobody to rally the fight to try to stop it. In Detroit, they actually closed down call centers in the Detroit area and put 1,200 people out of work. When the Public Utility Commissions finally turned it around and said, no, you can't do this, put those jobs back, they'd already sold the property. Where the call centers were located, they had to go buy property or rent property and rebuild these call centers to bring the work back in.
And by then, some different people have gotten different jobs. They have to retrain people.
And now they've got that training problem. Now they've got that turnover problem.
Because they have all new employees.
Right. If I could go back just for a minute.
Yeah.
When you said if the call centers in Detroit or in Michigan or Mississippi, it's not the same problem, but I think it is the same problem because call centers in this country have the same stress on people. Now they make more money, but not a lot more, and they have the same turnover problem. People at Washington Gas Light understand the gas business. They understand how to help these people, how to adjust bills. They're highly trained. Most of them have worked their way up through the company, and they understand all the aspects of the business. The supervisors are the same way. A lot of them have come up through the bargaining unit. They've done the work, and now they're supervising the work. Excellent people, very professional. If you're in a call center where you're selling part of the time, answering water utilities questions part of the time, and handling Washington Gas Light, you just don't get that same dedication.
One thing I would think is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but many of these people may even have been the kind of people that actually went out and serviced gas lines. hired up through the company. So someone might even know from personal experience, oh, I know the main gas line in Washington, D.C. It's underneath 3rd Street, just to pick something out. They may even have that kind of knowledge that helps them solve the problem more quickly. Is that possible?
Absolutely.
There are also many of them gas consumers, so this is their livelihood.
So that they know what it's all about. They know, oh yeah, on my bill I get that same little blue box, and I'll tell you what it means. It means this is your number there.
Exactly.
So that's another reason it should be local. One of the things that interests me, and I of course do a lot of shows on national political issues, is way back in '96 there was this huge discussion about welfare, and you don't want to just give people money. You want to give them a trade. You want to train them to do jobs. One of the things that's interesting to me is that in the gas industry, this has been a real success story in getting people off welfare rolls and to work, hasn't it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You were telling me 78% women, 90% minorities?
Minority, yes.
So, I mean, that's a huge part of people that, if they didn't have their gas job, and that's what they're trained to do.
In fact, Washington Gas had a deal with the D.C. government where they got a tax break for hiring people off of the welfare rolls.
So they got a tax break for hiring people off the welfare rolls. They pocket the tax break. The money goes to the CEO, and now they want to fire them.
Put them back out on the payroll.
And of course, they're on the welfare rolls, folks. It's you and I that have to pay for all of this. We only got a couple minutes left. Is there anything else that you wanted to point out, anything I haven't covered?
Well, one last thing I wanted to point out was Washington Gas attempted to close a call center in Southeast Washington in 2002.
What
put
happened?
a notice up, we're going to close. Public Service Commission of D.C. got involved quickly and said you can't close it. That call center, that walk-in center is still open today.
And it's important to be able to walk in. Again, I can't tell you how many times I've had problems with cable or whatever, and you got to get that face-to-face interaction, because you call and you get someone you don't know and you don't even really understand them. I got to tell you, I get on the phone sometimes and I say, "What's your name?" and they tell me this name, and then I call back because they haven't fixed the problem. I call back the next day. They have no record of the call. They don't know who the person is.
Well, and the people who use the walk-in centers are mostly low-income, elderly people. They don't have checking accounts. They don't have credit cards.
Computers.
So these walk-in centers are really how they pay their bills, and a big necessity.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone can pay online. Not everyone
Right,
has access
right.
to the internet. I'm lucky enough to do that. But that's a very good point. So the people who are most in need, they're the ones that are going to suffer the most.
Exactly.
Right.
And they're the same people in the communities who have a lot of these jobs.
Right.
Low-income people are the ones that will suffer the most if the call centers, the walk-in centers, even the accounting function go out of town.
So, of course, this is a nationwide problem, folks. You can stop it. www.sosatwgl.com. That's locally. That's this case study. But nationwide, this is a problem. Job after job is being outsourced abroad. You've heard in this case study the problems with just the gas industry, but the AFL-CIO and unions are fighting it all across the line. There's information technology jobs. There's call centers for credit card companies. The unions are doing their job to protect your job, folks, and I hope that you will help them in your own way. Again, if you disagree, comment on the website, radioinsidescoop.com, but it sounds to me like a pretty strong argument. Thank you, all of you. Ken Thomas, Dan Dyer, Sarah Strow, thank you for coming here on the
Thank you,
Insights.
Mark.
Thank you.